the start of it all.
I'm always amazed because there are a lot of stories about immensely creative, talented people who later become famous, and they somehow come together at a very early age, either through elementary school or high school or even maybe just bonding in a neighborhood. What was it that what was the attraction between you and Clive? Were you attracted to that oddness? And I mean that in the, creative way. And
well, Clive was a very larger-than-life personality. As those of you who have listened to him at Q&As or spent time talking to him at his table, if you've been lucky enough to meet him at a convention, or you've seen or read interviews with him, you know how Clive flies, and his mind is all over the place all the time, and he touches on anything and everything. And he was a very flamboyant figure at Quarry, which was when I started at Quarry Bank, which was 1966. I mean, it was almost run like an old-fashioned English public school. Clive did not fit in that milieu at all. But I think he's always reveled in being in a place where he doesn't belong. So he can kick up a rumpus, create a fuss, and kick doors and walls down and say, oh, I'm not supposed to do this, watch me. But he's a very good actor, which people may not know about him, but also, everybody thinks Clive Barker, he's weird, he has a strange mind, he has a wild imagination, all of which is true, but he's very, very funny. He's very, very devastatingly witty. Loves comedy, and the more ridiculous and absurd it is, the more he loves it. So it was just being drawn towards his personality, and as I say, it was a group of us who constellated around him. And as I said also, that he was putting on his own plays at school. When he would, again, this is Mr. Popjoy, gave him permission to take over the school hall for a week to put his plays on. And Clive had this great idea of putting the performers in the body of the hall and putting the audience on the stage. So it's like, this is the stage and the audience are up here, and all of that space is the school hall. That's our acting area. So I got drawn into doing some of that stuff with Clive. Was I attracted to the weird stuff? Yes, that was always there in me, but that wouldn't have found a place to express itself. I don't, or not in that way, I don't think, without that connection with Clive. Acting was something I was always interested in, and it's possible. I don't know what my life would have been if that moment had never happened. Sliding doors, you never know that. But acting was always there, and it was always something I was interested in, so it may have been something I would have pursued.
Was there any particular person or event that pushed you in the direction of acting?
Well, as I said, in the early 1970s in Liverpool, we started doing our own experimental theatre, improvised stuff. We were a mime troupe for a while in the mid-70s, and then by degrees we moved down to London. We formed our own theatre company called the Dog Company, performing original plays by Clive, all of which now are published, so some of you guys may be familiar with them, but there was one in particular which I think is a brilliant play. For me, Clive's best, called The History of the Devil. I see one nodding head, right? And I played the devil. And it's a brilliant conceit. It's very typically Clive. So very quickly the idea is that, of course, the devil was cast out of heaven and came down to earth, and he's been ruling on earth, and he's sick to death of it. He's sick to death of people, and the only thing he wants is to go back to heaven and be reunited with God. So a trial is called on the shores of Lake Turkana in Africa. And the devil wants to prove that all the things that he's been accused of, he's innocent of. And it wasn't him, it was humanity. Mm-hmm. And this is a familiar Clive idea. The monsters aren't the monsters, the people are the monsters. So this court is convened, which is an extraordinary court because it has the ability to call witnesses from the dead. So it's a kind of journey through the history of humanity from the moment the devil landed on Earth right on through. Yeah. So I was barely off stage, and I'm playing the devil in different incarnations, in different characters that he's assumed in different places at different times in history. He wins his case, he can go back to heaven, he goes up to heaven, and he immediately is back down again, screaming in pain and agony and loss. Because God has long since given up on us and fucked off, so heaven is empty, is the conclusion of the play. And we were at the Edinburgh Festival, and being very successful too, I may say, performing the history of the devil, and another show in which I played effectively Bugs Bunny, a short comedy that Clive had written called The Secret Life of Cartoons, which we did as an after show after doing that.
Well, that's quite a transition.
Somewhere, well, but that was what we did. That was what we did, and that was what we were used to doing. It didn't seem unusual or remarkable to us to pivot, to shift focus and change gear like that.
It's interesting that you...
Somewhere in that, at that point, I thought, I guess this is what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
And at that point, I could make the decision to stop and go to theatre school and have somebody teach me how they thought I should be doing it. But I also thought I've been doing this, for 10 years effectively. Yeah. And I've made my mistakes in public, and I've learned on the job, and you call it arrogance if you like, but I thought, I can do this as well as most, and better than some. Yeah. Certainly not as well as others, but I think I'll give this a go. The theatre company came to an end in 1982. I got my equity card, and I was working as a jobbing actor in repertory theatre in England. At a party in 1985, Clive, in the middle of a conversation about something else, said, "Oh, by the way, I'm trying to put together an independent, low-budget British horror movie, and I think there might be a part in there for you." A year later, the cameras were turning on Hellraiser. Yeah.
I find it interesting that in the play you play the devil, and then later you play Pinhead, who's the principal. So that's typecasting, or?
Not for me to say. You're never far away from that territory if you're going to work with Clive, you know what I mean?
Were you always the first choice to play Pinhead?
As far as I know, yes.
So how did Clive approach you with the offer?
You see, my memory is that just during that initial conversation having taken place, that was it. Now, at some point in there, I would have read The Hellbound Heart, mm-hmm. possibly in a pre-publication manuscript, mm-hmm. so I'd be aware of the story. And I know during 1986, I had a lot of conversations with Clive about the character and who he was and what he was. Yeah. So there was, as far as I'm aware, okay, just because we're talking about the devil, I don't know. What the fuck is crawling around my microphone?
That's the first fly I've seen in here today, so I don't know what that means.
Hello. Weird. I'm not thinking of the Amityville Horror at all. Whoa, whoa.
You were talking about getting the role, and you had no, it's with me. Talking to Clive about the role.
Yes, and then Chris Figg who's the producer, called me and said, well, it's time for us to talk turkey about this.
I heard that you thought originally that he was going to be a minor character in the film.
Right, okay, I thought you were going to ask me a different...
Uh-oh, which maybe I should ask you the one you're thinking of.
No, I'm fed up answering that one. No,
Okay.
no, that was always there. I think he's on screen for less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was my first movie. I'm buried in latex, playing a character without a name, and being paid union minimum rates for the privilege. If I'd been paid any less, I think I would have been officially an extra.
Oh, wow.
So what did I have to get excited about?
And yet, your performance in that film made an immediate impact. Were you surprised by the reaction that Pinhead got after the film?
I didn't know the reaction.
Really? How come?
Because, well, Clive's focus was not on the Cenobites. Clive's focus was on Julia. Clive's whole thing with Hellraiser was that he was creating the first great female monster in horror films, in Julia. And I honestly think he's always been a little bit pissed off that his side blow creations snuck past Julia and said, excuse me, this little film of yours, Mr. Barker, I think we'll own it for you, if you don't mind. And I know I talked to fans who were particularly in this country when the movie was coming out, and they said, you know, what was weird was all the interviews, you know, people who were on Good Morning America and so forth or whatever. It was Ashley Lawrence, it was Andy Robertson, and I think they may have brought Claire Higgins over from, who played Julia, over from the UK. So they said the interviews were always with them, and every time they showed a clip during the interview, it was you guys.
Yeah.
And then we'd come back to the studio to talk to them, but all the time we were thinking, well, this is fine, but who the fuck are they? And we never got the answers.
Yeah.
And I didn't do a single interview after Hellraiser was released. And although, like, Time Out London had Pinhead bang full face on the cover, which I kept and still have, I was not credited.
Wow.
And there were lots of you know, reviews and articles, almost all of which had an image of Pinhead attached to them, none of which I was credited for. So I was a bit like Karloff the Uncanny, you know, you know, question mark.
See?
The monster, question mark.
You are compared to Karloff.
And I had no concept of fan world. I didn't know anything about. I'm not even sure it existed necessarily. Not to the extent it does now. That changed after Hellbound, because then I did start to do interviews. Fangoria did what was really my first full-length interview, and then Tony Timpone called me and said, "We'd like you to come to Fangoria Weekend of Horrors in LA, April 1989, my first visit to this country and my first convention, 36 years ago." Tony Randall, who directed Hellbound, called me at the hotel and said, "Look, your first morning in America, I'm taking you to Beverly Hills for breakfast." So, okay, so he came and got me, and we did that, and we came back to the hotel, and there's a line wrapping out of the hotel and around, and as we were walking in, I could see people doing that.
Yeah.
I thought I thought they were recognizing
Tony.
and I'm no Barack Obama.
You're witnessing a Pinhead kill here.
No, I missed.